Fever live. And if you're watching on YouTube, some buttons will appear down the bottom of the screen magically, and it'll say subscribe, and it'll say alerts. And also don't forget Patreon, patreon.com/Whiteline Fever. And if you're listening on the podcast, welcome back. And after that long introduction from I think the band that's put out my favorite record of the year, and I'm not just saying that because he's on the line. It's Jack Meille from Tygers Of Pan Tang. How are you, mate?
I'm good. Thank you. I didn't know it was your favorite, so a big surprise. Having you saying that, in front of an audience. Great. Thank you.
Now you're in Florence, is that right?
Yeah.
You've just been on holidays, so Florence is a place that everyone else goes for holidays. Where does someone from Florence go?
Oh, well, my schedule in the especially this year has been quite hectic because there's been a lot of stuff with the Tigers in terms of promoting and touring. So, well, normally I'm lucky enough that the sea is not far away from Florence. It's just about an hour drive. So I'm a beach person. So whenever for me, holiday means a beach, sea, nothing, no phone, nothing, just resting and just enjoying the sun. So I'm not, and so that's what is going to happen at some point during the summer.
Now the album is called Bloodlines, and I just some musicians read every review and look at every like and every comment on Facebook and every retweet, and others couldn't give a stuff about those things. Which one are you? Are you obsessive?
I am the first one. I read everything. I read everything, and I know. I've always been. I'm a musician and I'm a music fan, as you can see from behind. That's just part of my record collection. So I grew up reading, reviews and newspaper and buying newspapers, all kind of newspaper, even those that were coming, even Kerrang way back in the early 80s when it was hard to find it here in Italy, or when he was able. We had some American also magazine coming, rock magazine coming to Italy, available in Italy. So I tend to read all the reviews and try and so far I've been happy. Just a few. Yeah. They were all basically, most of them are, if not most, all of them are good. Just a few ones are a bit more critical, but as long as it's well explained, any critics is more than welcome. And the thing that makes me happy about this album is that everybody so far is picking up their favorite song. So everybody has his own opinion on the album, which is great, because that's, I think, what makes a record interesting, because it means that people have been listening through, from the first to the last song, and then they have been listening at least another couple of times before they make their, they made up their minds and they start writing something, which is good, because sometimes, records are a bit predictable. You go, and there's nothing worse as a listener to go, okay, this is a fast song. I bet the next song is going to be a little bit like, mid-tempo, and it's mid-tempo. Oh, I think it's time for a ballad. There goes the ballad. So that's what happened to me a couple of times, and it's not good. So luckily, this album seems to appeal to a lot of people. So good.
Yeah, it's certainly very diverse. There's one review I just read before we came on, and I don't bring it up to mention the review or to highlight or to invite criticism of the journalist. I bring it up because it's a wider subject, which is the Jeff Barton review in Classic Rock, where he said basically his criticism was that it didn't sound like Tygers Of Pan Tang from the NWOHB era, and you would have read the review, I'm sure. And you mentioned Kerrang earlier, former editor of Kerrang, and I just wonder whether that's something that you do come across, where people, Def Leppard don't sound anything like they did in 1983. You know what I mean? Well,
the first thing is that Jeff Barton was the one who reviewed, and he was so enthusiastic about Animal Instinct, saying that if which was the very first album that came out, where I was involved with Tigers. So what can I say? I think that review was more of was not towards the album itself. It was more a statement, meaning Jeff Barton is the one who defined new wave of British heavy metal. So in his opinion, our new records doesn't follow what he kind of the guidelines that he used to define new wave of British heavy metal, and so that's the review. To be incredibly honest, that review turned out to be very positive because it made a lot of people, curious about the album, and made a lot of people, go and listen to the album, make their own opinion. So sometimes even a critical review is not a bad review. My point of view is that when it comes down to new wave of British heavy metal, I think there is, obviously you think about the music, but it was more like a cultural movement, because in new wave of British heavy metal you have Venom and you have Def Leppard. Now, can anybody tell me what's in common between Venom and Def Leppard? Nothing. But still they were in the new wave of British heavy metal. So I think and that was the good thing about that movement. There was a lot of band, every single band has his own trademark sound, and it was more the fact that they were all coming out at the same time from different parts of England, and it was a working man kind of music that you would listen to in working men's club and in pubs. And it was a movement that allowed a lot of that kind of worked, and kind of people seemed to connect very easily to the fact that there were a lot of people going to the shows, and that was the other thing. So that was the movement. All of a sudden there was a lot of people going to shows to listen to this kind of strange, unknown bands and each one of them have their own trademark sound, and that was it. So personally, if I go back to if I listen to Bloodlines, for me, the moment that Rob Weir is involved and the moment that Rob Weir plays a riff, there is a new wave of British heavy metal elements, because he was there. He contributed to define how an heavy metal riff should be written. So, and Rob wrote most of the riffs that are on the album. Then it was a personal choice which was something that we always wanted to do, is to add a little bit more melody, because we always thought that. And if you listen to the live albums most of them are bootlegs, but if you listen to live albums during the Cage tour, the band was in 1982. The band was playing Wildcats and was playing Euthanasia, and then was playing Paris by Air, and it worked. So the more commercial and the more melodic and in a way more AOR sound was still next to the more raw one, the more raw sound from the first album. And our goal was to keep that keep that connection, and try to write songs that could have both the elements. And if you listen to In My Blood, or if you listen to Fire on the Horizon, or if you listen to whatever, Kiss the Sky, I think you have that kind of element. And that's what we all agreed with, that we wanted to achieve. So, and then you have to, as a musician, you have to leave it to the audience. You have to leave to the audience the final decision. That's the very intriguing and very exciting and yet scary thing, that once the record is finished, you have to let it out and see what people think about it. And maybe they agree with you that it's a good album, maybe they don't, but you can't. That's part of the game.
I want to welcome back to White Line Fever, second part of our chat with Jack from Tygers of Pan Tang. And in the first part, I mentioned a review, and it wasn't my intention to hang a reviewer up to dry. So
No.
But the reason I mention this, because when I look up, if I were to go to any of these websites, Blabbermouth or Classic Rock, and I put in Tygers of Pan Tang, they're all reviews, right? They're not news. They're not, scandal.
No, yeah, exactly.
They're all reviews. And because of your origins, you have a lot of kind of like, it was music, as you said, it was music for people to listen to after work while they got drunk. But now it's actually probably the domain of the discerning, intellectual heavy metal fan, and they like to judge it, and they like to have sophisticated opinions on it. You're not Motley Crue, you know what I mean? So that must carry with it a bit of pressure that these people who are maybe a bit older than us, it's our age, a bit older. They're listening to every single note and they're comparing it with stuff from 50 years ago. It must carry a lot of pressure,
This is what I've said during the interviews. If you wanna, and that's how I define. If you want a déjà vu band, we are not a déjà vu band, because we are a musician who knows where we come from, and we are lucky enough to have a back catalogue, and we are lucky enough to have an heritage, and we are very, in a way, very honored to carry on the flag of what Tygers of Pan Tang, had done in the past. But at the same time, we are into now. So we are a 2023 band. So we are not stuck in the past. So if you want to have something more vintage, there's a lot of incredibly talented new bands of where the kids, people 20 years old, 25 years old, who play fantastic new wave of British heavy metal. And you can listen to them, meaning I'm more than happy that I can name a few bands that they're really, really, really good. But it's not what we want to do. Meaning we pay homage and respect to the past. And when we play live, we play a lot of old songs, but at the same time we want to play the new stuff, because it's the songs that we have written are the ones that kind of define us, define the band that is now, define the musician who are in the band now, and obviously when it comes down to writing, we have in mind what a Tiger song should sound like. And again, I keep repeating myself, as long as we have Rob, writing a riff, we know that we're going to have that element of new British heavy metal. But then we have Francesco, new fantastic guitar player. And Francesco, by the way, he's the one who wrote Fire on the Horizon, which is probably the most new wave of British heavy metal song. And he's the last, and he's one of the, together with you, he has joined the band since just 2 years. So that's it. It's a nice chemistry. It's a nice chemistry. So far we have a nice chemistry because we have Rob delivering the riffs, and we have Francesco who takes on board riffs idea and kind of rearrange it and make it and work so hard to make it into a song. And then it's me and Craig, the drummer, who work on the lyrics and the melodies, and we share the duty. Sometimes it's me writing melodies and lyrics, sometimes it's him, sometimes we both, like I write the verses and he writes the choruses, or the other way around. So it's good, and obviously it is what you listen now. When you listen to Bloodline, you really listen to a band writing together. Has been writing together during COVID, so using technology, because obviously we couldn't make it, we couldn't be in a room all together, but sharing stuff and constantly writing. We wrote more than 20 songs for Bloodlines, and we ended up with the 10, 12 that they ended up in, that we recorded. And some of them, one has been used for the Japanese edition that has a bonus track, and we are looking, we are expecting to release something with some bonus tracks in the very next future. So that goes to the record label when we're waiting for the final okay of our idea to release something with the B-side with some extra tracks.
Can you tell us a little bit? You've been in the band since very much earlier this century, but you sound like you've been around English people much even longer than that. Your accent is very English.
Well, there is a reason, because I lived way back in the 70s. My dad had a job offering, and the whole family moved to India for 3 years. Okay. So I was literally put in a British school, not knowing a single word of English, and I had to learn I kept myself quiet. I think it was the only time in my life that I've been quiet for a couple of months, because I couldn't understand a single word they were saying, and I couldn't express myself. So I kept silence for a couple of months, and then all of a sudden I started talking and writing, and that's why I have. So, it was a British school, but there was people coming from all over the world. So I have this kind of Zelig element that if I go to America, within a couple of weeks, I talk with American accent. And if I go to England, I talk with a British accent. That was it. So obviously in the last 20 years, I've been in England a lot of times, and I have now a girlfriend who's English. So she's from Derby. It's on Derby. So I'm now experimenting a new kind of some different pronunciations of words and everything, because I get I'm getting that kind of getting used to that kind of if not slang, dialect. So that's it. I don't sound like an Italian, I know.
I'd love to talk to you about your work as a but we haven't got all day. About your work as a teacher, as a singing teacher, and what kids are hearing now, and obviously the impact of auto-tune. Everyone tries to sound like. To me, I go out here where I live, and the girl across the hallway singing, and she's trying to sing like that kind of weedy, kind of alterna, desperate, sad pop chanteuse sound. Everyone tries to do that now, I just wonder, like, some of the trends that you must hear in singing that are influenced by pop. Do you try to steer your students away from that?
No. What I try to listen what I try to tell my students is that you have to find your own voice, and obviously, if your voice has to have so many outside input, like as FX, it would happen that it's not your real. You will never discover the real potential of your voice, because your voice will be one element to which you put different layers on. And the best thing to do when you start and you want to understand what is necessary to teach to sing, what you should do. It's the more honest you are, the more honest, and it's very difficult to at a very first time. Meaning, it's the typical example. If you listen to your voice if you record your voice, and the first time you record it, it will never sound exactly as you would expect it. Meaning that you will listen to it as, that's not me. Meaning, even for me as a singer, it took me a couple of albums to, and it could be quite a lot of years before I had an album where I could really recognize my voice. And I have to be totally honest. I think the first album when I was really 100% happy about it, not also about the delivery and about the how I sang, but most of all because I could recognize my voice, was Ambush from Tygers. And that was because I had the privilege to work with a real producer, Chris Tangaridis, who was the first time ever I had a producer, and he was fantastic. He allowed me to understand in that week that I recorded an album more than in 20 years, because he had such an experience, and he had a wonderful way to let you feel comfortable, to let you feel at ease, and to allow yourself to express, to concentrate more on the expression and not just on the pitch or anything. And he was great. He was great, and he recorded me in a very dry, with a very dry sound, that when I listen back, I say, oh, not only I remember when I recorded that things, but I remember, while I was singing, I remember the tone, I remember that particular, how I did that, I sang that word, and on the record is exactly the same. So it's like perfect match. So what I say to all my students is that go for your own personal voice. Then when you got your voice, when you know how to use your voice, then you can play with technology. Meaning, even in our album, in Edge of the World, on the verses of Edge of the World, and that was the producer. He added some kind of like a delays and some kind of weird effect on my voice, which I would never, I didn't even suggest it, but I thought it was like, I thought it was perfect, but because it was adding a little bit more like a drama to the song. It was really something artistic, but it was added, meaning I sang, and on top it was put something. Nowadays, you don't even try to sing. You just put the auto tune on, and I had the experience, meaning I did. I'm sorry if I have a long answer, but one of my worst experiences in studio was I was asked by a friend, a pop producer, to help him out to do a demo. So we worked on a song, and then all of a sudden, so I sang the song and everything, and he wanted to put some auto tune on it. And the end of the story, he re-recorded everything with his voice, because he said, the auto-tune on your voice doesn't work because you are too precise. So you're not going out of tune. So the auto-tune is interesting because it corrects, people not singing on the right pitch. But you got the perfect pitch, so it doesn't make any difference. So I said, and I was like, so basically you're not using me because I'm singing too well. And he said, yeah, basically, yeah, you're singing too well, so you're not right for the project. I said, okay. I went out of the studio. I was really frustrated because I said, what's going on? I don't get it. Meaning a singer should sing. No, but no, it's not.
Welcome back to White Line Fever, third and final part of our interview with Jack from Tygers of Pan Tang. And if you're watching, you're still watching, and we're both very grateful you haven't turned us off. Now, this final segment, I really love Making All the Rules. Is my favorite song. But what I thought we'd do is go through the track listing of Bloodlines and talk about, any interesting sort of inspirations for it. Yeah. And obviously that last one is going to be really interesting. But we're not going to have time to go into detail on all 10. We're not going to have time to go into detail on all 10. So if it's just a straightforward song about picking up girls or going on a holiday, we'll just say it's about that and move on. And the ones that are interesting, we'll stop and maybe talk about. So we just played for the people on the last episode, for the people listening, we played Edge of the World. What if anything, can you tell us about that song?
Well, that song, strangely enough, everybody thinks that song came up from Francesco. But the riff of that song and the old intro, the old Oriental kind of mood, was written by Rob. Francesco worked on the chorus and worked on the Spanish bit, the acoustic bit that it's in the middle, and it was Craig wrote all the lyrics, and obviously in Inside we as I said, we wrote most of the song during COVID, so there's a lot of I think COVID kind of inspired us a lot on most of the songs. So Edge of the World is like, it's like living. It's like, you can tell that we were all meaning, even everywhere in the world, we were not allowed to go out, locked down, and we were queuing to get to the supermarket, that kind of stuff. And so that kind of, sci-fi post-World War, alien invasion thing, I think inspired a little bit Craig. So that's
In My Blood.
Well, In My Blood is about the virus, and I think In My Blood is one of the perfect example of what we wanted to achieve. We want a heavy riff. We want the rawness and the heavy elements of new British heavy metal, but then you have an uplifting chorus that goes back to the 80s, and that's a perfect combination. And riff verses written by Craig, the lyrics and the melodies, chorus written by myself, by me. So yours truly, Jack, and I was inspired by Alice. I was listening to Alice Cooper, the Trash and the Hey Stupid albums when I was in lockdown. So I guess I got the inspiration from that.
Yeah, that's actually my favorite period of Alice, although it's not able to say that. But Fire on the Horizon.
Fire on the Horizon is Francesco Mara's tribute to Tigers, you know, to the early Tigers stuff like Gangland Hellbound, so fast riff, and it, as I said, is a fantastic live song. With the minute we play that song, we enjoyed it, the audience enjoyed it, so it's going to stay in the set list for a long time.
Light of Hope.
Light of Hope is my one of my favorite songs on the album. It's a more experimental one because it has different elements, but again, for me it's a perfect teamwork between with me and Craig as writers, lyrics and melody writers, because not only we play together, we are mates, we are, you know, really good friends, and it seems like whenever one of us is struggling with something, the other one can come up with some nice ideas, and that what happened. Again, he wrote the verses, and he was struggling to find a melody for the chorus, and he sent me his ideas, and I came up with a melody, and everything worked. And it's a bit at the beginning, I was in my idea that was supposed to be the opening track of the album, but then, you know, here, you know, Edge of the World came out, and we had no doubt Edge of the World is the opening.
Yep. And the next one is the first song I heard, and I guess if you heard this and you didn't like it, move on. Back for Good.
Second favorite of mine. No, there's one thing in common in Tigers. We were all rock, meaning Tigers were famous in the early 80s. We had the best memories, rock memories that we have in the band are from the 80s. So that's a tribute. It's an absolute tribute to the 80s. It's that, you know, the big choruses and like Def Leppard and that kind of stuff. So yes, it's a tribute. If you like the 80s, you should listen to that song. Yeah,
and the production sort of unleashes the song, doesn't it? Like, you could have that song, and if it wasn't produced in a certain way, it wouldn't have the impact it has. But
exactly. I think Hugh Maston did a great. He understood perfectly what we wanted to achieve with that song.
Taste of Love.
Well, yeah, it's I am not a ballad type of guy, and but guess what? When that idea came out, and it was not supposed to be played on piano, but Rob suggested to have the intro on piano, so it was Rob's idea again, and it was one of the best. It was the one song that when I recorded the minute it finished, I was so happy about it. I mean, he gave me so much while I was recording, and so it is one of those songs that I now listen more often. I know it follows a little bit of the cliches of the power ballad, but I never wrote a power ballad, so so for me it was the first time. So and I enjoyed it very much. I keep listening to it. I think the tone of my the tone of my voice, the way I shouldn't say that, but I listen to myself and I say, oh, I like that.
What about Kiss the Sky?
Kiss the Sky is again, it's going back to the early Tigers with a little bit of more a little bit of 70s, because I can hear a little bit of 70s. We at one moment we wanted to add some Hammond organ, and then we said no. We're going a bit too far from it. So it's a typical in your face song that it's a riff driven song, and it works. Believe it was a song that was there before. It was a leftover from Ritual, so it was one of those songs that we wanted when we started working together with Francesco. Was one of those songs that was coming from the past that we kind of give to him to say, what would you do? And he took the demo to another dimension, because as you can see, it ended up on the records. It's a bit more. I would guess some it has a little bit of more modern, like a bit more modern touch, meaning it's like drop D riff, so it's a bit more into the 90s maybe, but still you have the elements. It's still a riff driven songs.
Here we go. A New Heartbeat.
NWOHB is the one song that is the first song that I've been writing together with Francesco. Me and my Francesco. I wanted to, we wanted to test ourselves. So that was the song, the big challenge, and it's. I love to play it live, even though it's a tough song to play live. But every time I play it, it gives me a lot of positive energy. So it's an uplifting song.
Yep, and the building up to this, making all the rules. Now, to me, like the message is that don't blame the person who stuffs up, who does something bad, because we created the conditions where they do this. But I'm very interested about the characters in the song and what inspired them and what they're actually doing, because you know what I mean. It's the little kid is fascinated by guns, and the girl is lying about what she's up to. It says she won't be home tonight. What can you tell us about these characters?
Well, I'm not the right person, because that's a Craig Ellis. It's a drummer. It's a whole drummer. Craig Ellis idea. He had this idea. He had that idea since a long time, and he had the melody. So one time I was staying at his house, and I wrote the I would say the arpeggio on. I was the one who suggested the arpeggio for the verse, and the da 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 bam. That was me. So I wrote in a way. I didn't write the music. I just follow what he had in mind, and he always. I think Craig is a great fan of novels. So I think that was his challenge, was to write a song that had a story, like a script, like a movie. It's a song it's like 3 mini movies, short movies in a song, and with different characters. And it's about making the wrong choices, and sometimes. Making the wrong choices, not because you wanted to make the wrong choices, but because life takes you to a point where you are kind of forced to make the wrong choices, and that's what it's all about. What it's all about. And then we sent everything to Francesco, and Francesco came up with the whole, making us, just from my, very very I would say elemental. Arpeggios and power chords. He made it into a perfect song with the change of key at the end, and he ended up making a very powerful and dramatic song. I'm glad. It's a sad thing that, because nowadays, when it goes down to streaming and everything, the last song is the one song that gets always the less streams, because people are not willing to go to the end, while we probably, well, I'm definitely, I come from the generation that you have to listen to the whole album, so you have to go from the first to the last, and you have to take your time to have that bloody 40 minutes of your life to listen to the album. And I hope, because there's a lot of people saying that they love this song. I hope that it gets the mention, and it gets the credit that I think that song deserves, because it's a bit different. That's really, to me, it was not a risk, but we wanted to add something different to the Tiger sound, and I think that's the song that kind of takes you somewhere else, maybe, and offers you the idea that Tigers can also do different things.
It would lend itself very well to a big budget video, wouldn't it?
I know. Oh, yeah. You go to 18 and Alive, Skid Row, and the Bon Jovi Always kind of stuff. Yeah. If you help us getting the money, we'll do it. Yeah.
Well, you just need to get it included in a movie or inspire a movie, and that's where the money comes from these days, doesn't it?
Yeah, help.
We've probably been on. Sorry, mate. Sorry.
No, just help me. Just help us. Just if you have any contacts, if you have any movie producer, just give him. We can send you a couple of copies of Bloodlines. Yeah, do it.